Good evening and welcome to Newsmaker Live. It's a wonderful Wednesday evening. It's very good to be in your company once again. And tonight we're talking about St. Lucian business. With us for Newsmaker Live is the Executive Director of the OPSR, Ms. Jacqueline Emmanuel, and also we have Dr. Owen Gabriel, the Medical Director at the Oncology Center. It's very good to have both of you here this evening. And what a wonderful program, Expo 2012. I know we'll go into great detail on that for the next 90 minutes. Later on, of course, we have Roston Taylor who will be joining us, who is the representative of the Manufacturers Association on the island. So a lot to discuss, many people to discuss it. But before we get into Expo 2012, let's talk about the OPSR and the OPSR, the Office of Public Sector Reform. I'm sure that you'll correct me on the name there. What is the OPSR and what do you do?
The OPSR really stands for Office of Private Sector Relations. So my first task is to correct you. But first of all, I want to say thanks for having us. It's an opportunity that we truly appreciate. We hear mainly to let St. Lucia know about Expo 2012, but since you've asked me about OPSR, I would like to say that OPSR really has been in existence now for maybe about 15 years. I think we actually was established in 1997, so probably more than 15. OPSR was established primarily to serve as an advisory body to the Office of the Prime Minister on private sector issues. The government at the time, that Labour administration, really wanted to make a strong statement about its support for the private sector, and it really wanted to work close to the private sector. So the office was established primarily for that. At the time, St. Lucia was really going through some major economic transition with the banana industry. And there was a lot of economic fallout because of that. And so there was a need to really help the private sector to how should I put that, to really overcome that, that impact. And the whole thrust was to help the private sector become more competitive, to be able to compete in the external environment, to be able to create more avenues for employment. And also there was a concern about helping people in the banana industry to be able to find new employment outside of agriculture. So there was a major concern, I think a thrust towards diversification of the economy. At the time, the first private sector development strategy was developed, and out of that, a private sector development program came about to implement the strategy, and the OPSR was given the mandate to implement the private sector development program for St. Lucia. And for the past several years, I think up until last year, that was our main concern. We continue to give advice on private sector matters, but actively involved in implementing a program for development of the private sector in St. Lucia. That program was funded mainly by the EU under several of what we call the Special Framework of Assistance, SFA for short, use of acronyms.
Yes.
But we would involve in that. The last SFA program was completed last year. And at that same time, the government of St. Lucia was embarking on the implementation of a national export development strategy. And that's another story, but it's a parallel story. Way back in 2004, St. Lucia was in fact one of the first countries in the Caribbean to develop a private export development strategy as well. The whole idea was that we needed to move our country towards export promotion. You will know that around that time we were just implementing the WTO agreements, from the UAGRI round, we call it, those major agreements that transformed the GATT into the WTO. And so we recognized that the whole international arena for business had changed. It should be liberalization, integration of financial markets, and that countries were looking more outward. And St. Lucia, with the help of the International Trade Center, the public sector in St. Lucia and the private sector, I think we stood out because of the collaboration that existed at the time between the two sectors, and came together with the help of the ITC and developed this strategy. And we were pretty visionary and pretty advanced in doing so, but unfortunately, we were not as quick to implement it. And we have languished in the background, and many countries have in fact overtaken us, and that we never made a very concerted effort to implement the strategy. But last year, the government got some assistance from the Caribbean Development Fund to implement that strategy. So while the SFA program came to an end, the private sector development program came to an end under the EU, this new program was about to take off the ground. And so the government needed an implementing agency to take that responsibility, and found that the OPSR, with the record we have had of implementing projects in the private sector, and the fact that we had such a good relationship with private sector agencies, we felt like the most expedient approach was to ask the OPSR to take on that responsibility.
Now, please convey to the Prime Minister that I've changed your mandate from private to public.
No, I think that's our culture now. we won't just change because you say it. But we've had a number of years of working in the private sector. So I kind of want to focus on what we're doing now. So in effect, we've been given a mandate to function as a trade export promotion agency. And our primary responsibility is to implement the strategy, rather to coordinate its implementation, and to take on the function of export promotion. And that's why Expo 2012 is such an important activity for us. So OPSR now, I'm really speaking from the point of view of the Trade Export Promotion Agency.
Yes, and Dr. Gabriel, welcome again. Of course, you are taking part in this program because as a country, we have not only goods but services that are worthy of being exported. I'd say even farther than the Caribbean region. Talk to us about your participation in Expo 2012.
Well, it's clear that having me here is something unusual. You suggest that private sectors tends to refer to the sector that produces commodities, tangibles, and so on. However, I think the perception of the services sector is sort of skewed in our own culture, the culture of St. Lucia and the culture of the region. And there's so much that has been done in this recent times that where the services sectors have expanded the framework within which they work. And especially in my field, the health sector, which traditionally has been looked at as a sector that produces nothing but consumes lots of resources. And you see that through government's contribution towards developing health sectors. And what we've done, as you know, in our country, we've had lots of private entities in the health sector opening up, offering services at different levels. And this has reached a point where we have a certain amount of branding. So particular groups are able to exercise their expertise in a particular area, whether it is family medicine, whether it is internal medicine areas, and in my case, for instance, cancer services, oncology services. And this is important because we have gone beyond just satisfying the demands of our local clients and our patients. We at the Oncology Center, we receive patients from St. Vincent, Dominica, Antigua, and certainly tourists who come over who are undergoing treatment in their own countries seek our services via organizations, for instance, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, to which I pertain, and they come down here on a vacation, but at the same time can access best practice services, quality services that are on par with those that they get in their own regions and in their own countries. So it's an exciting time for us, and it's exciting more than just because we think that there's so much to do and so much to attain. It's exciting because we in this economic climate as well, where the services sector certainly feels the brunt of these times that we're dealing with. And it's not traditional that one would think that you're able to grow in services. People don't see it as something that is marketable. And we want to change that perception. And you see that in this particular Expo 2012, we've been given that opportunity to change that perception, have people see what we do is beyond the tangible product itself. It's something that impacts on lives, directly on families, For example, in the health sector, there are financial services that are exported as well. Right. So we think it's an exciting time, and there's lots to explore as far as that is concerned. St. Lucia, on the whole, has become a hub, let's say, for the medical center, medical reference area. You have very well-known institutions which have attained accreditation throughout the region, and a lot of us the bar has been set for us to look at how and inspire other people who want to get into that field. And we depend on our local clients, and it's because we've been able to satisfy them that I think we have been able to capture the imaginations of other people in the rest of the region to come over.
And a lot of people are not aware of it, and it's something new that we're getting to Expo 2012, and I think it will open up doors, not only now but for the future as well. But let's take a break right now. When we come back, we'll discuss Expo 2012 and the implications for local business. Stay with us. Newsmaker Live continues right after this.